Hello and welcome to the United Stand, where I'm joined by Kevin Callum for the Sunderland Manchester United preview game. We've just beaten yesterday Ipswich Town 3-0 with Anthony Martial once again on the score sheet. So I'll just throw it straight to you, Kev. How good do you think he can become, Anthony Martial? Do you think we put in too much pressure on him too early with the 4 goals in 4 games? But he's only 19, we have to remember, and obviously there's the Henry comparisons, and he's currently, well, along with Rooney, our top goal scorer. But if you put it in terms of minutes, he's comfortably our most efficient player so far. So do you reckon he will be this season's top scorer and such an important player, or do you think we have to limit our expectations and not get excited too quickly?
I think there's a risk that we can put too much pressure on such a 19-year-old kid that pretty much before we'd seen play for United, I can safely say I'd never really even seen him play or heard much of him. But I think the thing with Martial is from what I've seen already, his finishing is absolutely ice cold. He is deadly in front of goal, and he has taken all his chances well. And he does look the full package. He looks exactly what we've been looking for. And it's his pace. He can hold the ball up. He's strong. And to come on in a game, yeah, it was only Ipswich yesterday, but he didn't have long. And he stamped his authority on that game again. And great to see him come on. It's great the fact that he's now got these 4 goals in 4 games. I think with the thing with him that I like about him, he doesn't really seem to over-celebrate goals. Last night he obviously runs off towards the Stretford end again, but he just seems, for a 19-year-old, he almost seems very mature for his age. He seems like a player that he gets his head down, runs back to the halfway line, and he wants more. He just wants to score and do well for the team. I think it's something we've been lacking. We've got it now. We paid a hell of a lot of money for him, and yeah, the question is, how good can he be? I think that's entirely up to him. But from what I've seen of him at the minute, there's no reason why this season he's well on course to be United's top scorer. And at this moment in time, I think Van Gaal's probably surprised at how he's hit the ground running. And you can't leave him out of that side now. He's given him something to think about. And on current form, I mean, you'd pick him over Rooney. He's more of a threat than Rooney up front if you look at it like that. So I think he picks himself for the Sunderland game purely because he's been scoring goals. So yeah, I want to see him in the team.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. His record so far is just absolutely unbelievable, and he's going against, well, not even arguably, the worst team in the Premier League this Saturday at 3 o'clock. So you'd have to expect that he'd score again. So, and like you said, that his finishing has just been absolutely brilliant for us. But Gary Neville was saying the other day on whatever it was, Monday Night Football or Super Sunday or whatever it was, and I'd read it as well from journalists that they were really surprised in France of how well he's taken his goals, because finishing was never his strong suit in France, and then it was always about his pace, his power and his dribbling, because obviously he's a brilliant dribbler. But now he's come to England and his composure for someone his age is just absolutely brilliant. And what I really like as well, and they touched upon it there as well, is that he just barely even celebrates. He just acts like it's just expected of him and that's his job, and he's just so calm about it. You'd think someone his age would be going mental when they score, but he was really calm. So what about you, Callum? Do you think that he will be our top goal scorer, or do you think we're putting too much pressure on him too early for such a young kid?
I definitely think he's on a run at the minute. I'm enjoying how he's taking his goals. I think every goal he's scored has actually been in the right-hand side corner. If he continues to run, there's nothing that can stop him at the end of the day. I mean, he's exciting. It's exciting to watch. I mean, he's running at players. He's getting past players. Even though he did take the ball off Memphis, he's taking the ball off players and doing things which we haven't seen from the Rooney this season. And to be honest, if he continues in the same vein of form, he could be the 20-goal striker that we've been hoping for all these times. And in a case of, he's so composed, and he's as Kev said, he's got this ice cool finish, and it just reminds you of this. This stone cold sort of, when he gets the ball in, he knows exactly where he's putting it, and it gives you confidence even when he has the ball going through. Like even when he went through against Southampton, it's kind of weird because I kind of had that feeling that he was going to score. It was like this confidence which I don't think I've ever felt before with a United player going through on goal.
Yeah, definitely. His like I said just then, his finishing has been like really brilliant. And like you touched upon there, his confidence, especially you forget that he's 19. He like what like I was reading a thing and people saying comparing him to Makeda because Makeda scored in his first two games. Well, Martial's done more than that now, but um, and then they said the last person to do that was Louis Saha, but Louis Saha was obviously ravished by injuries, but he was still a brilliant player. But another player, a young player for the future that started yesterday and was voted man of the match in the end was Andreas Pereira. Do you think that after yesterday's performance he could have forced his way into Louis van Gaal's plans for the season, Kev, or do you think we need to be patient with him as well and just ease him in gradually with, like, obviously his best position with Pereira's is number 10, but it doesn't seem like that we're going to drop Rooney, and then there's a lot of players for competition for that position. So where do you see him playing if he does get a chance, and do you think he will get a run of games now? Yeah.
He's done himself absolutely no harm with that performance last night. I think many people probably would have voted him man of the match, which, again, for such a young footballer playing his first full debut at Old Trafford. I think the thing that like I tweeted about last night that impressed me was the fact that he steps up to Juan Mata in front of the Stretford end, who was shaping up to take that free kick. And for a 19-year-old kid to turn around to Juan Mata and say, you have the confidence, and I wouldn't say arrogance, purely confidence really, to say, no, I'm having this one. And then to actually bend it round the wall into the corner. You can't ask for much more than that. We've seen him in the youth side. We know what he's capable of, and I think a bit like Januzaj, he always stands out playing at that lower level, head and shoulders above the rest. And then Januzaj has struggled for whatever reason to make that step up. But Pereira last night, I think, looks a gem of a player. And I just hope that Louis van Gaal now keeps him in the first team setup. I'm not saying start him against Sunderland. I'm certainly not on that bandwagon at the minute. But to have him in and around the squad, and certainly to have him on the bench as an option. And once he works his way into the first team, we've seen what he did on the tour in America. He stood out there, and just glad that he's in and around the first team now, which is a very good sign. Quality player, so we'll just have to see how it goes with that one, I'd say.
Yeah, as you touched upon there, he was comfortably, in my opinion, our best player on tour. So it's really good to see him get his first start, and obviously his first goal. Obviously he scored on pre-season as well, but he really does seem like one for the future. He's just got such good dribbling and everything, and yeah, I just think he will end up being a really good player. As you said, Januzaj hasn't quite worked out with, but if he's going to Dortmund and if he gets a lot of game time, I think he could end up becoming a top player. I was surprised with Wilson not playing yesterday, but I'm sure we'll touch on that later. Callum, what did you make of Pereira's performance yesterday?
I think Pereira's brilliant. I mean, we've seen it for so many years, not so many years, but I mean, we've seen it throughout the start of the season. I mean, even when he was in the Brazil under-20s World Cup squad, he was the star man of that team. And even in, as Kev said, in pre-season, he was arguably the best young player on the tour. And there's no surprises. I mean, we've been saying this for not every single week, but every time an opportunity comes where you want a new young player in the team, you kind of always look to say, well, why isn't Pereira in the team? And I said it weeks ago, Pereira needs to get a run of games this season. And I know he's not going to start regular because he is not first team ready yet, but at the end of the day, he is going to be first team soon. And I hope that we manage him well, and I hope that he becomes the player which he can develop to be, because he could be a world-class player, we don't know. But his free kick yesterday was brilliant. His overall play yesterday was brilliant. And I don't know if he's going to start against Sunderland, but I want to see him play against Sunderland.
Yeah, so just to read a couple of you guys' comments. Mark Goldbridge saying Fellaini was about as useful as a packet of matches to a deep sea diver. Keen226 saying I voted Daley Blind man of the match. Stuart Wilson saying we're starting to gel as a really good team together now. Mad Zach saying I'm still not convinced by Rooney, which is just brings me a brilliant segue into the next topic of conversation. Kev, Rooney, he still is that first Premier League goal is eluding him. I know he got the offside one against Newcastle, but he just hasn't really seemed on song really so far in the Premier League. And I personally don't think that he should be the person to lead our front line. I think it should be Martial. I know he is only 19, but I think he's shown in the few games he has played, he's already scored just as much as Rooney in way less minutes. And he's the type of player we need with the strength and the pace up front that really can unlock a defence. But did you see enough of him yesterday that you would want him to be a regular starter for us? Obviously, with the captaincy, I think that's inevitable. But would you prefer him as a striker or as a number 10 or in whatever position?
For me, Rooney is a number 10. And I do want to see him link up with Martial and play behind. I think that's definitely something that the players will work on. But again, I mean, yesterday's performance, yeah, you're happy he took his goal really well. But we've had this false dawn this season already. He banged in a hat-trick against Bruges, and everyone was back on social media and that Rooney was back. And then I think we said the same thing. Let's not get too carried away. Let's see what he does at Swansea the week after. And lo and behold, I know it wasn't a great performance by United, but Rooney went missing. Same thing happened away to PSV. And now he's got a goal against Ipswich. No disrespect to them, not the greatest of teams. We were expected to win yesterday. And all I would say that if he's picked against Sunderland on Saturday, we just have to see how he goes there. The way the running trend is at the minute, his Premier League games, he really is struggling. So bottom of the league, rock bottom, Sunderland. Again, we're going to be expected to win. The question marks hanging over him at the minute with Rooney, because personally I don't think he deserves to be in the team. I don't think that just because he's captain it automatically means he's immune from being sat on the bench or out the team. I've always said it doesn't set a good example to other players if he's getting picked just because he's the captain, and he needs to lead by example. I think personally Rooney needs a rest. We need a bit of a shake-up there, and it might just give him the kick up the arse that he needs to try and resurrect himself and find the form of the player that he once was. Because at the minute there's question marks as to whether he can ever reproduce what he has done in previous seasons at United. So I would fully expect him to start on Saturday, but let's see how he gets on, because the running trend at the minute is when he gets a goal against so-called lesser opposition, he can't continue that back into the Premier League, which is where he needs to be doing it on a weekly basis for Man United.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. You actually touched upon my previous comment on I think it was Sunday's show, that if he would have just been a new signing in the last 3 years and wasn't the name Wayne Rooney, then no one would rate him as highly and defend him as much as they actually tend to do recently. It's just, in my personal opinion, he was all right in Fergie's last year, but he wasn't that groundbreaking, and I don't think he's been as good of a top striker that, he's meant to be our main striker. So if you look at the top teams that we're competing with, City have Sergio Aguero and Chelsea have Diego Costa, which, yeah, he hasn't been in that, neither of them actually have been in that amazing form, with Martial outscoring with more goals actually than both put together in less minutes. But you still, over the course of the season, expect them to do, get into the 20s at least with their goal tally. With Rooney, he hasn't got in the 20s for the last 3 years, and I just don't have no confidence in him doing it. And I'm starting to worry with him with the Manchester United all-time goal-scoring record. I'm starting to think he might not even get that, and if he does get it, the majority of those goals I think are going to be in the likes of the FA Cup, the Capital One Cup, and the Champions League, where teams just don't come on to us as much with the pressing and everything, which we seem to struggle with, and sit back as much, which is a struggle with that Memphis is having as well. But Memphis, it's kind of forgivable because he's a lot younger. But what about you, Callum? Did you think Rooney had a good game yesterday, and do you feel confident going into the Sunderland game, bearing in mind, we'll touch on something later, but we were all really confident going into the Newcastle game at Old Trafford, and they're 19th and Sunderland 20th, and we all know how that turned out.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Rooney situation. I mean, Rooney hasn't hit the heights since the season where City won the league in 2011, 2012. And Rooney hasn't really I'm not saying. I mean, he hasn't really made you stand up and go, "Wow." Do you know what I mean? He hasn't had that wow factor this season. He didn't really have it last season. It wasn't really present. Um, I don't think. I think he was given the captaincy on a sort of like that. I just don't think he's the right man to lead Man United. I think there's someone like. I know he's just coming, but I think someone like Schweinsteiger should be the captain. But looking at it, I think going into the Sunderland game, as I said, I'm always confident going into the game. But Sunderland are probably worse than Newcastle at the minute. I mean, Newcastle have been poor as well this season, but Sunderland have been worse. I mean, they concede goals. They've got no defensive shape. If United can tap into that sort of system that we know, then we can rip them apart. But that is dependent on whether they want to sit back or we want to actually go at them, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree. As I just said about, we all were really confident going into the Newcastle home game, and they just completely sat back and did absolutely. They just came for a draw, and we couldn't unlock them. But that was back when we were playing Rooney up front, and I think with Martial, he does offer us something different. But as Van Gaal keeps on saying in his press conferences, that Martial's he's not so much saying that he's getting his goals because of this, but he's in the game against Liverpool and the game against Ipswich, he's brought them on when we're already winning, and so there's a lot more space at the back. Whereas against Sunderland, you know exactly what's to be expected. They're just going to sit back the entire game. So do you feel confident, Kev, that we're going to be able to break them down? As I like normally with pace, like on the likes of Memphis and the likes of if Pereira gets another game and Martial as well, that we can like hit teams on the counter, which does work against the best teams like the Champions League or against the likes of City. But Sunderland, I don't think are even going to try to come out there half the entire game. So do you feel confident about us breaking them down? And if so, what do you think the key to the game will be?
Yeah, like you've just said, really. You mentioned the Newcastle game, and we struggled that game because they did come and sit back, and they were happy to go away with a point. I think the difference now is that signing of Martial and what he brings to the team. The fact that we now have a striker who has this pace but actually plays on the last line of defence. I think it makes such a difference. You think back to the game, Newcastle, we obviously had Rooney up there, and he likes to drop back into midfield and sprays Hollywood passes around where he's not really effective. Now we've actually got a striker who will sit on that last line, always making really good runs, stretching defences, and that really is the key. And I'm not just putting all my eggs in one basket and putting more pressure on him, but you surround him with the right kind of players. And another, I think, key player who's going to work really well with him is Memphis, because them two seem to have a good little understanding going on. And from what I've seen, the little 1-2s and the movement, I think that this is... The team just looks totally different, and I know Luke Shaw's obviously injured, and there's a question mark over Rojo. We've got a couple of injuries defensively, but I think as an attacking force now, I mean, the midfield as well, we're absolutely blessed with options. We can change that week in, week out, and we look just as strong as the week before. We can totally change it. But yeah, I think the key one, Alex, is that signing of Martial, and there's no doubt that he will start that game on Saturday, and against Sunderland, he'll be going out as confident as ever. He'll be rubbing his hands together because he must be looking at this game and thinking he can get 1 or 2. And again, I'm not putting pressure on him, but he just seems that kind of a talent and person that he's very confident in his own ability to go out and at least score a goal. I think what the key on Saturday is the first goal. If United get it, and we can get it in the first, say, 10 to 15 minutes, I think Sunderland's heads will go down because that's their game plan out the window. So key is probably first scoring that first goal and kicking on from there.
Oh, without a doubt. If we get the first goal early, I think that will change the game dynamics completely because, as I said, they're going to just turn up. We all know what's going to happen. I'm sure Van Gaal knows what's going to happen. They're just going to turn up playing for a 0-0 draw. But if we get the early goal, like you say, it will be absolutely brilliant. And with Martial, that's just the thing I worry about is that, like you say, he's just been scoring every single game. So it is kind of pressure, but it's really weird that for a kid so young, he just doesn't seem to feel the pressure at all, which is just absolutely crazy. So people need to be patient. Like, I've seen so many United fans already slated Memphis after like 5 games in the Premier League, which is absolutely crazy, which I don't think he's been as bad as some people are making out. But then because Ashley Young came on and like won us a free kick against Liverpool, and that he's like the flavour of the month and everything. But in terms of like overall games, I think Memphis has been better, and in terms of overall ability, Memphis is a better player than Ashley Young. I don't care what anyone says he is in terms of raw ability. But what about you, Callum? Are you expecting an easy game against Sunderland, or do you reckon that they'll just shut up shop and make it really, really hard for us to break them down?
When you go into games like this, it's kind of a case of when it's like they're going to play for a 0-0 draw. I mean, coming out of the game, Sunderland will look at it from a perspective of, well, if we get a draw here, it's a good result. But like Kev said, if we get a goal in the first 15, 20 minutes, their heads will drop. Then they actually have to come out and attack, and that will leave themselves open, which means we should hopefully then go in for the kill, as they would say. So it depends on how it starts. I mean, if they get the first goal, then they've got something to protect them. They've got a lead to protect. And I mean, last time we faced them at home, we won 2-0. It was very comfortable. I mean, it just depends on how we're gonna pressure the defence, and I hope that someone like Mata can unlock the defence, because I mean we've seen him do that so many times over the seasons, even if it be at Chelsea or it be at Man United, United. Anyway, I don't know. I think as long as we can turn up and we put pressure on their back four, because we know they're going to sit back, then anything's possible. But I think we can win. I think there's a huge difference between Sunderland and Newcastle, defensively wise. So as long as we can unlock the defence, get a few goals in, and I think it will be a comfortable victory for us.
Okay, I would be reading comments, but it just seems to be completely all off topic. But we've touched on him lightly, but with Memphis Depay, a lot of people, as I just said, have been giving him stick for his Premier League performances. But obviously in the Champions League, he's either gotten a goal or assist in every single game. How do you feel about him so far, Kev? Obviously he's come in with a lot of pressure on him, like probably even less than Martial, actually, to be fair. But I think that he is a player with huge potential. I know there's all the Ronaldo comparisons, which you can't compare anyone really to Messi or Ronaldo, but I don't think he's been anywhere near as bad as some people are making out. Like, his decision making sometimes isn't the greatest, but people have to remember he's only 21 years old and he's coming brand new to an entire new league with loads and loads of pressure on him. And like I've said on like pretty much every show trying to defend him, that he seems to get like 2 or 3 players on him every single time he touches the ball. But how are you feeling about his performances, mainly in the Premier League so far? Because obviously in the Champions League he's been shining, and against Ipswich obviously he got the assist for Martial's goal.
Yeah, I've not been. I'm certainly not on Memphis's back. It's a difficult step to make, and that's proved it, because in the European games he's looked the part. And it comes to the Premier League, there is no league like it in the world. The speed of it, it's obviously physical. The one good thing about Memphis is, and we've seen players come over in the past, and you just know, I think Mark used to always touch on Di Maria. He always said he's just not cut out for the Premier League. Yeah, he's got the tricks, but physically, he's just not going to stand it. And obviously, United sold him with whatever went on there. We're not really sure. We get told different stories. But the one thing I will say about Memphis is, yeah, people might say he's struggled slightly in the Premier League, but that is a lad there, like you say, 21 years old. He is equipped to play in the Premier League because he has got the build. He's quick, and he's obviously clearly talented as well. I've got no worries really at all. I think he's the classic case of a player coming over and trying to find his feet, and he's probably been caught a bit off guard slightly with the pace and with the physical aspects of it. But for me, he looks like he can stand it, and he's a big enough talent. I've said it before, he was big enough to take the number 7 shirt, and in itself, to have the confidence to even do that, and people might laugh and say, well, Michael Owen did it. But Memphis is 21 years old, and whether he was offered the shirt or asked for it, he was big enough to take it on, and he wears that on his back now. And for me, he will fulfill the number 7 role, because I think he's big enough to become, I won't say as big as Ronaldo, but certainly he's going to be a big player for United. And like I said before, the way he's working with Martial, I think that'll probably take a bit of the pressure off Memphis now, because he was 25 million. And I think, again, a lot of people go off the price tag in the summer. We spent 25 million. You must be a player, expect him to hit the ground running. It's not quite happened yet. But yeah, I think the link up with Martial and the fact we signed him has probably taken a bit of the gloss off him and maybe the pressure, so he can just get on with his game now, Memphis. Want to see him involved on Saturday for sure.
Just to come to some of you guys' comments, Jared Fire saying Memphis is just inconsistent, shows so much profit in moments, he will be great. Mad Zach saying Memphis just needs a partner, which I think is just what Kev touched on there, with that Martial and Memphis seem to be strumming up a really good partnership, which is really good. But he just does seem to drift in and out of games. Like, he'll go for 10-15 minutes where you won't notice him, and then he'll do something amazing, which I guess that could just be to youth and inconsistency, which I think he will be an absolutely brilliant player for us. But what about you, Callum? Are you feeling confident with Memphis's Premier League performances so far? Do you think it's just because he's new to the league, and have you seen enough from the likes of the Champions League games where he doesn't constantly get doubled or tripled upon, that he, when he just isn't, in my opinion, when he hasn't got 2 or 3 people on him every single time, he's absolutely brilliant, but he can be a little bit predictable how he always cuts onto his right foot, because his right foot is obviously lethal.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Memphis is going to take time. You can't rush these things. Even though Martial's come into the league and he's set the world on fire, sometimes it's like that. I mean, you look at Diego Costa last season. He came in, he scored 7 goals in 4 games. I can't remember what it was. But it takes time to adapt. And I mean, maybe the Champions League style at the minute, it just suits him. A European style of football will suit a player who's used to the European style. But coming to the Premier League, it's so much different. I mean, the Premier League's stronger. For that matter, it's more physical, so he's got to adapt to that. There's always going to be players that are going to double up on him because of the sort of person that he is and the reputation that he has in the Dutch league, for him scoring 21 goals last season. So of course it's going to be difficult, but he's young, he's 21 years old, he's got time to adapt, and there will always be more time in the future. I mean, no one settles into a job and it's like it clicks. Sometimes it clicks. Sometimes it takes time to click, but at the end of the day, it will happen. He will be a good player, I think, and I think his performances will improve. He has been inconsistent, yes, but you've got to expect that at the minute. I mean, he's like I've just said now, he's 21 years old. He's in the new league. He's learning a new style of football under Louis van Gaal, so it's going to take time.
Okay, and just lastly, Kev, with obviously Luke Shaw's horrific injury, which broke my heart, as I'm sure people who watch this show know that Luke Shaw's my favourite United player, and he'd just been doing so well this season. It was just absolutely heartbreaking what happened to him against PSV. But against Ipswich, we started with Valencia at right back, Young at left back, and then obviously Smalling, Blind again. How do you see with McNair and Rojo injured, how do you see our defence for the rest of the season? Do you think it will be Rojo at left back and then Darmian right back and then the same 2 centre backs, or do you think that we will go with a more attacking left back in the likes of Ashley Young, as we saw yesterday?
I think I think it all depends on what game it is and who we're playing, where we're playing. But I mean, long term, as a back 4, I know Phil Jones was involved yesterday, but Van Gaal obviously said because of the injuries that he was very lucky to be in the squad, which shows how thin on the ground we are. We always knew we needed a defender. He patched it up with Blind, who in fairness has been absolutely brilliant this season so far. Never expected him to even be anywhere near starting every game at centre-back the way he has. And he has been quality. But the team yesterday, I mean, I would not certainly read into that and think that this is something he's going to take into Saturday and every week in the Premier League, because we just would not get away with it in the Premier League. I think long-term, if Rojo comes back, he's going to look at putting him out on the left. Personally, I think Darmian picks himself. I don't even think that's even a debate whether it would be Darmian or Valencia. Obviously, you've got options there off the bench, and then the the back line, yeah, can Phil Jones work his way back into the team? That still remains to be seen. That rhymed, that didn't it? And obviously you've got Blind, who's been sensational. So I don't see any reason why he should change the centre back pairing unless there's injuries. So yeah, again, I just wouldn't read too much into the lineup yesterday. I think he just picked the team that he knew could do a job yesterday, and it did it. So I expect it to be slightly different for the visit at Sunderland on Saturday.
Okay, fair enough. Tyler Mitchell saying, to be fair, Valencia has never been the same since he broke his ankle against Rangers. There to Memphis 7 says, play Young at left back, it's only Sunderland, which, like you said, with Ipswich it was arguably because they aren't necessarily the strongest of teams, so maybe we're just trying to all-out attack them. And to be fair, we could really take the same mentality against Sunderland because they're not going to try to really attack us, let's be honest. Keane 226 saying United played two wingers at left back and right back. Lol, yeah, that is pretty ridiculous. Free Kahib saying Young playing at left back. Ian Murphy saying where's Rojo? He injured his hamstring against who did we play? Southampton, and apparently Van Gaal in his press conference said that he was a bit annoyed by him because he was apparently injured and didn't tell them that he was injured. And yeah, Mad Zach playing says Darmian plays left back for Italy, so that's what I wanted to touch upon with you, Callum. Would you play with Luke Shaw's injury and with Rojo out against Sunderland? Who would you play at left back? Would you go with Young again so we have the attacking option, or would you play Darmian at left back because, as Mad Zach said, he does play it for Italy, so and he can play there. He played it for Torino as well. So would you rather play, I guess, Ashley Young at left back or Valencia at right back? It would be with Darmian either side.
I think that if you're looking at it from a perspective of, I've personally never seen Darmian at left back. I'm sure others haven't seen Darmian at left back either. So I've always known him as a right back. I didn't know that he could actually play left back until I think it must have been a couple of weeks ago. But if he can play left back, then maybe he can do a job there. I'm not sure. But looking at it from a perspective, I'd rather see someone. It's difficult between Valencia and Young because they're completely two different players. Because Young's more sort of not defensively minded, but he's weaker, but he's kind of more, I would say, better at tackling. Whereas Valencia's just pace and power in a way at right back. So if you're looking at it, I think based on the fact that I like Young more, I'd probably play Young at left back and then stick Darmian at right back, just because I think that Darmian is composed and he's settled at right back. So I wouldn't really want to try. I'd like to try and keep the system of our defence as concrete as it is and as stable as it is at the minute. Because I mean, if you look at it over the seasons, a good defence means was it Sir Alex Ferguson? I think he said that strikers win you games, but the defence wins you leagues. I think it was something like that. But I think our defence is key. It needs to stay the same as much as we can keep it. Darmian right back, Young left back for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. So overall, what is your prediction for the game going into it against Sunderland on Saturday, Kev? Are you feeling confident? What would your score prediction be?
Confident as always, mate. And against Sunderland, if we can't do it against Sunderland, we've got no chance. You cannot go into this thinking that that even if they park the bus, that we're getting anything less than 3 points. And that might sound ignorant. It's not ignorance, I'm sorry, but Sunderland are basically shit. That's all I can say. And we should be beating them. They're bottom of the league. We've got a good team, and especially in the final third now, we should be beating them. It's as plain as simple as that. I'll beat around the bush all night, but I think we should be winning this comfortably. I don't see any threat from them, even on the counter-attack. I just hope that I don't look silly here now on Saturday after making this prediction, but I'm going 3-0 to United. I cannot see Sunderland scoring. I think if we get the early goal I mentioned, I think we'll just kick on and in typical Van Gaal style, just do enough to win the game and get the job done. So 3-0.
3-0, very ambitious after, as I was saying, we all thought this, and I have no clue what we said in the Newcastle vs United preview, but I'm guessing it was something along the lines of what Kev just said, and it didn't really turn out that good for us. So, what are you thinking, Callum? Are you feeling a really high score line? I think it will ultimately depend upon, like Kev said earlier in the show, about an early goal. But if we don't get that early goal, then obviously they're going to gain in confidence, just put more and more just behind the goal, and it's just going to really put pressure on us. So, do you expect a high-scoring game? Obviously, they're absolutely useless, but you can't really compare games against the likes when Sunderland are playing, whoever they have played, the likes of like Norwich and teams like that, because they're actually going to attack them and leave spaces open. But obviously, they're going to come to Old Trafford and play for a draw. So, are you expecting us to win comfortably, or do you reckon it'll be like a 1-0 or a 0-0 again, or even a loss?
I don't think it's gonna be a loss. I think I can't see a loss in. I would touch wood. I don't think it's gonna be a loss at all. I can't see us losing this game. I mean, looking at it from a statistic point of view, we haven't scored more than 4 goals in a game. I think we've only scored more than 4 goals in a game 3 times in the last 2 seasons. So if I'm looking at it from, I don't know that stat. I'm kind of just going it off memory, but I think we're going to win. I say it every week because I'm confident in United. I'm never going to go against United. I think we're going to win the game. I think if we can get an early goal and not sit back and play the sort of football that looks like we're playing in the last 20 minutes where we're trying to close out a game. Because sometimes when we score, we look like we're going to try and close out the game for the rest of those minutes. So if we score early, I think we should just go for the kill, as I've said many times. Just go for the kill, completely slaughter them to pieces. Maybe 4 or 5, I hope, but I'm going to say, respectively, 3-0, I think. I think that we'll kind of slow down after we get the first, and then I think the second and third will come in the second half.
Okay, fair enough. In my opinion, it's going to be 2-0 to United. So anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for coming on, Kev.
Thank you for having me as always. I couldn't get the fancy overlay on the bottom, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at KevinAshford7. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the match on Saturday when we beat Sunderland 3-0.
And thanks for coming on, Callum. I guess you couldn't get your overlay on either. I think it was short notice of me just coming from the ultrasound literally with 5 minutes to spare.
Yeah, I couldn't get my ultrasound either. My Twitter is at Man United, so MANUTDS_news. So follow me on there. And yeah, see you after the game on Saturday. Is it Saturday? Saturday, yeah, Saturday. Hopefully for a United win, I guess.
Yeah, so anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to be back on Sunday night, obviously, with the Sunday show at 9 o'clock. But obviously, Mark isn't here for the Sunday show, but I'm sure he'll be on for Saturday straight after the game, after the Sunderland game, with his live match reaction. So thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and yeah, thanks to everyone. Come on, United.